CoT's base of operations is right here at thecounciloftime.com. CoT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast, like DailyExcellence, who is authorized to rebroadcast by way of video.
Yes, it is. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Mike?
Excellent, excellent. You called the right number, but it took a few minutes for everything to flow through. So.
Okay. Mike, it was quite an extraordinary list, what you say, of scientists and molecular engineers and biophysicists and nuclear engineers. I mean, this is a very, very intellectual group of people to just, in 2 years, and these strange, unforeseen accidents, boating accidents, plane crashes, getting hurt, So what's going on?
Well, you know what, Pastor, it's very unfortunate. This process began a while back with the microbiologists. All of a sudden, they start going first, microbiologists, and then, of course, those who study the planets and so forth, and who do work for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Quite a few of them have gone also, who are in special projects. Some of the jobs that these guys take, it's very, some of the jobs are, you have to deal with a lot of paranoia. Some of the jobs, the money is very luring, and the promise of having all your funds to do the research is also a lure, but what they normally don't, they normally have an idea that it's not going to end well in some of these positions. And to be frank with you, when people find out certain things, there's no way the controlling powers are going to let them live. So there is no getting out of the job. Most of these guys, if you may notice, they wanted out. They needed to get out. And it's worse than a mafia. Once you're in these positions, there's no way they're going to cut you loose with the knowledge you've obtained. And they're very serious about keeping their secrets. They're extremely serious about that.
It's not that everybody that works in NASA or in these fields, that everybody's at risk, because there's a lot of jobs within those fields that are just, these are the people carrying out certain tasks, and they just do their task, and that doesn't mean they have the knowledge, the intellectual property that is the secret knowledge that needs to be protected by any government. But there are people who end up being, actually say, hello, this just did this. Look what we just found. This is what you've been looking for. That one of the people that have those, voila moments, they're the ones that could be at risk. And when they want out, they just can't get out.
Yeah, and they know it to a degree. They know there's no way out. And so they normally, each one of these folks will publish a few things before, before the ending. They attempt to publish things to give to the public under the guise of, you can search a lot of scientific journals and see the writings. And if you understand the scientific lingo, you can actually see certain hints so that you can replicate and get the same results. But it's unfortunate. But there again, they have a term. It's called, to take some of these positions, you have to sell your soul to the devil, which means you have to be in full compliance, and you have to take oaths, so to speak, with certain powers to even be in that position in the first place. Knowing something comes with a great responsibility, and they know what they're doing getting into it. They just can't live with themselves after a while.
You think it's the guilt? Do you think it's the realization of the impact maybe down the road on mankind, on humanity, or on certain countries or groups of people maybe, and they realize now what the end result's going to be, and they begin to just, because I believe inside every person's soul, there's a part that longs to be in fellowship with their Creator, with God Almighty. And you might go down a path that you think is what you want, but once you get there, you want to come back. The devil will take you down a path, and keep you longer, and you want to stay. I mean, do you think that happens to people, that they get there and say, "Oh no, I want out of this"?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. And just like we were all teenagers once, and we didn't quite look at the world like we do now. And now looking back, we see that the world was a very precarious place. And these scientists, they have a conscience. And when they see the ultimate goal of their discoveries is never going to be put out to the public, it's not going to be used for the good of the public, rather for weaponry and things of that nature, and other things that will only protect the privileged few. They can't live with themselves. I mean, it's like you having a secret to save the lives of everybody on the planet, yet you're forbidden to ever share it. And so in part, they're guilty. They feel this guilt because they're playing a role in the destruction of billions of people.
Right. Another thing to look at when you talk about people selling their soul to Lucifer, it's not just, let's say, in intelligence or in nuclear chemists, nuclear engineers, or people that are privy to information as it relates to discovery, as it relates to our planet, or things that are shaking the heavens, let's say. Or maybe the DNA manipulation, like a Monsanto and these type of people, or the certain new weaponry that just would blow our minds if we knew how it worked. But I think in the entertainment industry, there are people who literally do the same thing. They sell their soul. They to acquire certain wealth, money, fame for the now. They're willing to live for the now and forsake the future. And same thing in government positions, don't you think? In levels of high government, not just U.S. government, I'm talking about every government of the world, there are people who swear an oath, sell their soul for the powers that be. And this is extremely disturbing.
It is. That power position to be recognized is the lure that Satan uses, absolutely, and it just doesn't apply to the rich. From the top to the very bottom, he uses the same lure. I'm going to make people recognize you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and people fall for that. And then they get in the middle of it, and it's too late. It's unfortunate, and so I think that a lot of people, they do know the truth. Unfortunately, they won't be able to tell anybody about it.
Let's talk about these. Stephen DeNoon's report about Iran with 3 nuclear warheads, 15-ton warheads. I had heard this rumor a year ago, but I never reported it because I didn't have any sources at all to back it. It was just, I don't even remember. Someone sent it to me as an email, private email, but no. Now we're starting to hear, here's a guy who says he's, I don't know who he is. His name is Ali. Okay, he says his name is Ali. He does definitely speak with an Arabic accent. I heard him speaking. And he says he's a nuclear scientist and has got out of the country of Iran. And he's saying that Iran has nuclear weapons but doesn't have the ability to launch them yet. What do you know? What do you know about that? Do you know anything about Iran having maybe 2 or 3 nukes? And can you also tell us what's it take to launch a nuclear warhead, or just in layman's terms, what you may know?
I'll tell you what, Pastor, I'm glad somebody else said it. What was it? Was it the beginning of last year? The beginning of last year, we did talk about that, and because it was so inconceivable, nobody could. It's hard to understand. But now that somebody else is, they had Russian nuclear warheads for a long time, but they didn't have launch capability. North Korea had a direct deal with Iran to create the vehicle to launch these nuclear warheads, and that's where all these missile launches actually came from. Well, recently, and I'm so glad you bring this up, because maybe this will open people's eyes to something that's happening. That's just very unfortunate. Depending on the size of the warhead, they have to have a different launch vehicle, and it certainly has to travel more than 5,000 miles. But they do have that capability in Russia, and right now Iran does not have the proper vehicle to launch the warhead. It has to be retrofitted with special electronics to ensure that warhead makes its target and doesn't. It has to be a reliable vehicle. Also, you don't want that thing to explode on takeoff. So, but Russia has these vehicles. Where are they located? In the Ukraine.
Wow.
They're still in the Ukraine. You see, when they shut all the silos down, they didn't actually empty them out. They simply covered them up. Russia does this a lot. That's one of their practices, not to move things, but to actually vault them in. They'll concrete things in, and they'll just, that's where they stay. But what we're seeing now, what are we seeing now? We're seeing Russia backed into a corner.
Yep.
We're seeing Russia backed into a corner, number one, because they have special deals with Iran. Have you noticed that we never, ever talk about sending troops into Iran? There's a reason for that. And the public may be snowballed. In other words, they don't know the truth of it. But it's time that they put this picture together. We just can't march into Iran and go do anything we want to do. That's just not going to happen. It has not happened with all the presidents we've had, and they wanted to go into Iran. It never happened. Because there are things in Iran that they just don't tell the public, and the Western media will paint a picture of both Russia and Iran in different places so that the public has their idea, their depiction of what they want these nations to look like. But Iran is a little more powerful than what the average person knows, and they're a whole lot more cruel than what the average person can imagine. But now we're backing Russia into a corner. We're backing them into a corner because they were the number one supporter of Iran, but it's going to backfire. We can't throw all these sanctions at Russia and force them into a corner, right? Because now their relations with Iran are going to strengthen. What we're going to see is the Russian government working very closely with Iranian and Islamic factions. This is what we're going to see. We're actually seeing a clear divide. America could halt this
if they would stop.
But and we faced an internal problem with the military. The morale is not up to par in the military. You see, Pastor, you just can't go to war. You have to have a good reason to go to war that the troops actually believe in. Right? And so
you have to have a cause that the troops believe in and the nation believes in. And then you have to have troops who believe in their leaders, their leadership. So that because if they don't believe in the cause, go ask, look, the Germans, they didn't believe in Nazism's cause. They didn't believe in Hitler's cause. They knew what was going on among their own citizens, the Jews, and they knew this was a suicide trap. They quit fighting. They knew it was no use. It was they didn't believe in it. Matter of fact, there's one story where they were taking Jewish men. They would make them strip down naked, and they were told to walk out into a frigid lake. Just walk out there up to your neck and stand there. That was what they were supposed to do. And of course, they're going to stand there for a while. They're going to get hypothermia, and they're going to die. And one of the German soldiers that was given the order to have them march just started taking off his uniform, stripped down naked, and walked out in there with them and died with them. Because why? He didn't believe in the cause. So your point is, what we've done to Russia, which is really, really, I'm struggling, is the propaganda has painted Putin to be a monster. The Russians have been cornered, have been kicked out. They've been smacked around by both the Americans and the EU. And instead of embracing Russia as part of the European or the West, we are shoving them into the Islamic world. We're literally saying, go with them. And they're a big boy. I don't know why, don't you want to hold your friends close and your enemies closer?
Yeah, they've certainly done this, but see, in the public side, look at what they're doing. They're painting a picture. The unity that everybody saw over the weekend in France, that was a farce. That was a ruse. That was disturbing to me. First of all, you don't make peace with the enemy. It kind of reminds you of that verse, through peace he shall destroy many. Well, we just saw it march in France. And this compromise is doing nothing more than causing all the nations to take a stance in under the guise of unity and peace. But look what's happening on the outskirts, because what they're doing is they're taking a stance towards Islam. They're going to raise the morale of everybody. They're painting a picture for these Islamic forces, specifically Iran. They care less about ISIS. They really want Iran. They care less about ISIS. They want Iran, and they want Iran and Israel off the face of the earth. But it's going to backfire, because the word says it's going to backfire. And Iran will ultimately side with Russia, and we see the formation of that now. And it's very clear, but the Russians are going to be working with Islamic factions, and the unfortunate part about this, Pastor, is that we're such an arrogant nation that once you begin to believe in your own plans, once you take God out of the picture and you believe in your own plans, that's when you begin to fail big time. And that's what America has done. They believe in their own policies they've set forth. They believe they have the best advice for the world. And they're going to have to do something nefarious to increase the morale of soldiers and the cause for this next effort to go forward. And we're seeing the formation of that. We're seeing the formation of a setup.
You're seeing that by identifying radical Islam and creating some type of unity among nations, that it's setting up the stage for a confrontation really between Israel and Iran, and get the world behind it, get everybody behind it, but it ultimately will end up being a battle between Iran and Israel. And of course, everybody's going to choose different sides, but
Well, they'll eventually blame Israel. It's what they're going to do. They're actually pressing Israel into a corner to cause them to do something preemptive, so that they can blame Israel and get them out of the way. We can't make a mistake. There's no country on the face of this earth that likes Israel. No country stands with them. They really don't. The people do, but no one else does. And this Iranian problem with Russia is going to be very evident this year. And America will be forced to make a choice, because very, very nefarious things are forming. But the United States has to be a victim. They're going to have to be a victim, Pastor, or the soldiers will not get behind any cause the president puts forward.
Now, Russia did spend $1 billion in building this Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran. So we know that Russia is really way in deep with Iran, and that relationship has kind of been off the page relationship, but I think what you're saying is it's going to come into the forefront. It's going to become a more open relationship between Iran and Russia. It's not going to be just a quiet backroom deal. It's going to be out front. We're joining forces. I already see it with Turkey as well. Russia, Putin, and Erdogan are definitely chumming up, and they're locking arms. So you can't forget Turkey, because they're big boys. They got nukes.
Yeah. I think Turkey will ultimately they'll ultimately join forces and be forced to. Well, not forced, but they will willingly play a role in what's coming up. They will absolutely willingly play a role in what's coming. Their rhetoric is extremely anti-Israel, anti-Christianity, anti-everything, and they will certainly organize something to attack or to mount some type of assault. But it's really we're seeing just like you're saying, Pastor. We're seeing prophecy unfold. We really are. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, they're going to continue to have the attitude. They're going to say, "Well, I can't believe it until I see it." Unfortunately, people like that, when they do see it, it's going to be too late for them. You know,
Right.
that's what's happening overseas. We sit in the comfort in the United States thinking these things have not started yet, but the Christians are being slaughtered every single day in the Middle East. And it's things have started already. You know,
It's
they
terrible.
really have. Yeah, it is.
It's very similar to what happened in World War II. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the world kind of sat quietly by while Jews and Christians were being systematically, a genocide was going on. And nobody wanted to get their hands dirty. It's the same thing. It's the same thing going on in Iraq and in Syria and in other parts of, the world, of other nations as well. But it's just a flat out slaughter. And it goes on. And I talked to this man last weekend when I was in San Diego, and he showed the coffee. He's from Iraq. He's from Mosul, from Nineveh. And he said, look, it's a slaughter over there. It's an outright slaughter. And the American public really doesn't know what's happening. And they don't probably want to know. It's just, they think it's just these people over there. But these are people. These are families. These are brothers and sisters in Christ that are being mutilated, brutalized by this wickedness. And the world is just filled with violence and evil, which is exactly what the Bible said would happen in the last days. It truly, truly is. Miss Didi, I took care of that problem. Mike, one more question I'd like to ask you, and that is, there is still something going on besides the earth, besides radical Islam, besides Russia and the positioning and the Bible prophecy of these nations, rumors of wars. There's something about the shaking of the heavens. There's something shaking the heavens. God said He's going to shake the heavens. I don't know by what mechanism He uses, but we talked about this 3 weeks ago about these energies, these galactical planes, asteroids, and I mean in January alone, this month alone, 80 asteroids, near-miss asteroids by the Earth in this month alone. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What can you say about what's happening with this? Is there any information that we can attain as it relates to the next 3-4 months?
Well, you know what? Public optics are somewhat limited to SOHO and things of that nature, and whatever NASA explains. But people will begin to see lots of streaks, lots of new named meteor showers that they haven't heard of before, and again that this traffic in the atmosphere of streaks in the sky and cinders and so forth will gradually increase, and it always begins or is preceded by the thicker the dust gets that falls to Earth, and the hotter the temperatures actually get, the heavier the pressure, which means people's bones are going to ache even without the sun. They're going to see that timing is coming very close. The particles in the atmosphere will actually begin to obscure the light. So, in fact, it will be a type of haze. It will be a type of haze.
Almost a vapor. That's what David Wilkerson said in his prophecy. He saw the cosmos turning into almost like a fire in the heaven. He said to the point it created a storm, a cosmic storm. It looked like a vapor. So is that what you're saying? A dust, a vaporous haze in the heavens?
Yes, and that will, everybody's going to be able to observe this, and I'm sure that everybody's going to have their explanations. Of course, the media will, the media is going to have to explain quite a few things this year. They really will.
Yeah.
But what my hope is, Pastor, is when people begin to see these things, they really, really should not fear. They should just understand that prophecy is fulfilling itself. But while prophecy fulfills itself, and the heavens are in fact changing, and the senders will come, that the greater things are held back. In other words, when I'm saying held back, is there are things happening in the universe that we're just now beginning to understand. We don't have a full understanding of the universe. And the Lord said it perfectly, Pastor. He said, although they climb up to the heavens, He'll pull them down. Although they go into the bottom of the ocean or the sea, He's going to get them. Although they dig into the earth or close to hell, they can't escape Him. You know what? He foretold us in that. Why would He say that in that chapter? He told us exactly what they're doing today.
Yeah.
I'll say they're doing this today. They're doing this today. And when the public finds out, well, that's when they go hide. That's when the anarchy really starts, is because once the public finds out what's actually been happening, they're going to be angry. And then they're going to be scared. And those who have no root, who fake their salvation, Pastor, I feel sorry for them. Those who are out there and they're constantly attacking people and this, that, and the other. Because I have to make one statement, Pastor. Jesus said a man is drawn away and tempted out of his own lust. If lust is within you, then you can be tempted, right? But He also gave us a key. You can't be tempted or drawn away by anything that does not reside in you. Pastor, when this darkness comes, anybody who still holds darkness in them, they're going to be drawn to that darkness and utterly consumed. They're going to be gathered in that way and be consumed by that. They will not be able to escape because they're rejecting Him now. Every accusation against a person who houses the Holy Ghost. And if they continue to do this, they end up disrespecting the Holy Spirit. Which is blaspheming. In that blasphemy, strong disrespect for the Holy Spirit. And see, they don't know what they're doing. No. They don't. They don't realize that the Spirit of God. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yeah, it is blasphemy. I was going to say that whenever people are walking in darkness, they won't come to the light, at least their deeds be reproved or corrected. What happens is they can skirt along the edges, but when the real rubber meets the road and it's time, then people gravitate to wherever they are. If they're in the light, they gravitate to the light. If they're in the dark, they gravitate to the darkness. There becomes a clear dividing sign of separation. Sheep from goats, tares from wheat. It happens every time. It's a pruning process, but it's part of what God does. And when in the end time, it is going to happen. You made a point and that's part of why you see a lot of this spewing out of people's mouth. They kind of walk around like they're kind of halfway saved, but then when it gets really intense, it just spews out of them this wickedness, because that's really what's in their heart. And Jesus said, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh." I want to ask you a question. You said that when the people finally realize what's happening, the anarchy is going to start. In other words, they're going to go after the global elitists. They're going to say, why in the world did you not tell us this? Why did you lead us down this path? And that's part of the judgment that's going to come upon those that have done this. I'm going to ask you 2 dates. You told us a date, August 17th, 2015. You said that's the day to watch. Something about that day. And then there's another scientist. His name is Gil Brazard with his Planet 7X theory. He has set a date of March 26th, 2015 as a day we have to watch because of this Planet X entering into Earth's galactic or orbitable system. I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Cycle. What is it? What is it about? First of all, do you know anything about the March 26th date or what he's talking about? The Planet 7X or Planet X or whatever name, a dwarf star that people use. Do you know anything about that? And second of all, what can you tell us about August 17th?
I can tell you about August 17th. And again, that's an expectation date of a gravity wave, a pressure wave that will enter our solar system. prior to this August 17th date, if volcanism increases, you know how waves in the ocean, they come up, right? First you see a small, little wave, and then you see a bigger wave, and then a bigger one, and then they go back down to small again. This first wave that's coming in is one of the tiny little ones. It's a tiny little one.
Coming in August 17th.
Coming in August 17th. Okay. If volcanism increases sharply before August 17th, then the impact of that force coming into the solar system could be not so good. It could cause some issues. If there's no volcanism that comes in, it's something they're still going to watch because they don't know the effects of this. They just have no idea what the effects are going to be.
So if volcanism is just normal as we've been seeing, does that mean that this wave is not as powerful as they were fearing?
It means that the energy is not what they predicted. But then after August 17th, a few days after that, it will actually pass through the Earth and the Moon. And they still don't know the effects, Pastor. There are forces out there that cannot be observed, and they're absolutely destructive. There are forces that just simply can't be seen. And they'll burn you. You can't see them, but they'll fry you in a second, and you really can't see them. And so these are brand new forces that we're dealing with here.
All right, now let me ask you a question, because I did a video a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago, where I actually show a meter of a probe that was sent out into space, been out there like 10 years or something, and it has picked up waves coming toward the Earth. And it registered them. And I actually did the video. I actually show that meter going and showing the waves. Is that what it was detecting? Was it detecting these gravitational waves? I think they're calling them gravity waves. I mean, was that the first? Are they out there somewhere saying, "Okay, here it is"?
Now they did detect that gravitational energy, but without the substance of what. See, these waves that are coming in, Pastor, are I call them gravity waves. That's putting it mildly. They can be absolutely destructive or absolutely passive. And the only way that people are really going to know is through a type of if the particles on the Earth, inside the Earth, begin to increase, if the molecules begin to become very active, which will increase volcanism, well, then we know we could have a problem. We could have an issue. And so that's what a lot of people are watching for, is a sharp increase in volcanism. If that turns bad before this date, well, then the impact of this first tiny little wave is going to be the first of a few catastrophes waiting in the balance. Now, I do have to say this. I hold this belief, this is my belief, folks, that we, and I stated this, I believe, a long time ago, that we live in a binary system, that we, in fact, have two suns. That most of the solar systems out there, they don't have one sun. They have two or more suns. And when they do the measurements on our solar system and the perturbations with Uranus and all the other planets, they found that the only explanation they have, even the wobble, is if we live in a binary system. If we live in a binary system, then it's time for the other system, the other sun's system, its planets and everything else to come into this one. That's going to wreak havoc when that happens, because the closer they approach, the faster they move. It's like a ricochet effect, right? That when they're far out, they're moving at one speed, but they speed up as they become closer. They also become a little more active. When the suns approach within a certain distance, they will begin to transfer energy, and there will be lightnings and thunders that are just not like the lightnings and thunders we're used to, but we're talking about electrical discharges from one planet to the other, from the moon to Earth, sounds and bangs that'll make your eardrums bleed, that type of lightning and thunder. And Go ahead.
Does the agency act, and my question is, does that then change gravitational pull? I mean, if you bring in another, if we move, our whole universe moves into another sun, let's say, where there's activity, there's planets circling another sun, and we get anywhere close to that, does that start to pull us apart? I mean, we can't be caught between two suns and the gravitational orbits of those suns. Or is that part of what the Bible's talking about when the Bible says, you know, that you're going to see stars will be, the heavens will be shaken. Here's what Jesus said. The heavens. He said there'll be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and distress on nations with perplexity or confusion. And the sea and the waves will be roaring. Men's hearts will fail them for fear of what? Looking at those things that are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Now, Jesus didn't just say that to fill up the pages. He's telling us, and it's not the only place. He tells John this in Revelation. Talks about the heavens shaking. Paul talks about it in Hebrews 12, verse 26. God said, I'm not only going to shake the earth, I'm going to shake the heavens also. I mean, there's no getting around these scriptures. But you're saying there is scientific proof now that the heavens shaking is about to start. That's what really you're saying. Don't know exactly what all it means or what the effect is going to be. But what you're saying is we are starting to get scientific proof that the heavens are going to shake.
Yes, they'll soon come out. And also this now this second sun has its own system, but there's stuff coming before it. There's a lot of stuff coming before it. I think that this 7X or Planet X or whatever people want to call it is something that is preceding the entry of this second sun. I really do believe that. And I keep getting drawn back to Revelation about one portion of the sky, moon, and stars being darkened. Pastor, what can do that except that something has positioned itself right outside of the earth? And you're only seeing a portion of the sky and everything else. So something, and wouldn't you know it, guess who comes as soon as that's positioned? Well, then Apollyon starts to rise. And so we're looking at something a little different here with that. Something that's not quite conventional. But this other system, when it does come in, it will, before, when it came in, something came into our solar system, they think it was the other sun. It absolutely changed the orbits of all the planets. Some of them began to rotate the other direction. Some of them flipped multiple times. It shook everything loose. And both systems will do. It'll be chaos.
It will be. It's going to happen. It's in the Bible. They're not going to be able to change it. It's coming. It's coming soon. Jesus is coming soon. It's Mike, I'm going to have to let you go. We're